has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Well, it seems that awakening is Disney's realization that Galaxy's Edge has so much untapped potential that is now possible thanks to one very small change, which also gives us new hope for the future of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So let's dive into all of that up next. This video is sponsored by Star Wars Card Trader by Topps, which brings collectible card trading from a galaxy far, far away to your iOS and Android devices. And there's a couple of ways to get started, as you can lock on to your target and win a prize every day, or wait for the cargo drops of free cards or credits to then build your own collection. And if you happen to have some duplicate cards within that collection, you can now salvage them in exchange for the cards that you really want, so that you can then go on to complete the various missions and unlock different types of unique content from across the galaxy. So be sure to add me at the username JackatDSNY and download the free app for iOS and Android today with the link down below in the description box.
Hello there, Waltineers. I'm Jack, and this is DSNY Newscast from Galaxy's Edge today, as it's been 3 years since it opened, and now it's beginning to change.
As you see, recently the legendary bounty hunter Boba Fett and the mercenary Fennec began their in-park appearances as walk-around characters in Disneyland's version of Galaxy's Edge. And it's also been announced that at a yet-to-be-specified later date within Black Spire Outpost, we'll finally have the opportunity to meet the Mandalorian and Grogu. And over in Walt Disney World, we're finally beginning to see the integration of the long-awaited galactic credits concept, with the upcoming bounty hunter missions around Galaxy's Edge. As with Magic Band Plus, you will be rewarded credits for not just how well you fly the Millennium Falcon, but also for capturing hidden bounties around the land.
Now, this may seem like a relatively small change, but this actually marks a monumental shift in the direction of Galaxy's Edge.
As ever since the land first opened in May of 2019, the original concept was for this to feel like a real, living, breathing outpost on the edge of a galaxy that was set within a specific period of time, so that every character and cast member belonged to the same exact interconnected story. However, for the most part, this has been too nuanced for a theme park audience that are not familiar with the timeline intricacies or story details, whereas this concept is actually much better suited to the controlled parameters of the Galactic Starcruiser experience instead. But what made matters worse for Galaxy's Edge was that the time period chosen was ridiculously specific, as it's set in the very small amount of time between the end of The Last Jedi and the beginning of the Rise of Skywalker, which, to put that into context, all of the events of episodes 7, 8 and 9 take place canonically within just one single year. And this needlessly precise time period, coupled with the disjointed story arc of the sequel trilogy, wasn't even being used to its maximum effect, as most of the stories within the land, like the Millennium Falcon mission and Savvy's workshop, did not relate to the events of the new movies. And the attempts that were made to integrate the story with the sequel trilogy still failed the continuity test. As for an example, Rise of the Resistance is meant to play directly into the story of why General Hux betrayed Kylo Ren in Rise of Skywalker. However, Kylo Ren's helmet in the attraction is perfectly intact, despite this taking place after the events of The Last Jedi. Therefore, all the fixed timeline was doing in practice was restricting Imagineering's creativity for long-term future developments, and limiting Disney's ability to capitalize short-term on the popularity of new content on Disney+. So, it's clear to see why Disney wants to now begin to partially unshackle Galaxy's Edge from this timeline. But the reason why I say partially is because it's been stated that while we as visitors may be able to experience different stories throughout Star Wars history, the characters on Batuu cannot, and they're going to remain in their specific story and timeline and won't intersect with other characters or stories. And how this is being implemented is through what I'm calling character timeline zones, as around the Millennium Falcon and down to the TIE Echelon First Order area is where you'll find the sequel trilogy characters such as Rey, Chewbacca and Kylo Ren, whereas throughout the marketplace and out down beyond the droid depot is where you'll come across Boba Fett, Fennec Shand and likely at a later date, the Mandalorian as well.
However, there's one big caveat to all of this at the moment, and that is that this is exclusive to Disneyland's version of Galaxy's Edge, and there's been no mention whatsoever of this type of character integration coming here to Walt Disney World.
But there's two possible reasons why, with the first being that the Galactic Star Cruiser's excursions to Galaxy's Edge is an integral part of the experience and needs to remain in line with the rest of the events of the Star Cruiser storyline. But then again, Disney could get around this issue by simply scheduling the legacy character integration on the alternate days when there's no Star Cruiser excursions to Batuu. And so the other reason for why Disney World is getting the short end of a stick here is the same reasoning for why Disneyland has temporary overlays with Haunted Mansion Holiday, It's a Small World Holiday and Mission Breakout Monsters After Dark, as the two resorts have very different guest demographics, with the majority of Disneyland guests being Southern Californian locals, whereas Disney World attracts visitors from all over the US and around the world who aren't able to visit frequently. Therefore, Disneyland needs limited time offerings for repeat visitation, whereas Disney World does not. And another example of this is how Avengers Campus has been regularly debuting new Marvel characters alongside their respective theatrical and Disney Plus releases, which has resulted in increased interest in this land. And so it only makes sense that Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge follows this template as well, as after all, Batuu was designed as an unknown planet so that guests could live their own Star Wars stories and not relive others. But now that decision has also served a double purpose by brilliantly providing a blank canvas where it's possible to potentially encounter the likes of Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul, C-3PO, Yoda, Luke, Leia, Han, and yes, even Jar Jar, all three of the Star Wars canon, unnecessarily complicating matters by being themed to a pre-established planet. However, in the short term, it seems most likely that the characters that we're going to be encountering next will be ones tied to recent and upcoming content releases, such as Bo-Katan, Ahsoka Tano, Cassian Andor, and perhaps villains like Moff Gideon and Cad Bane. But all of this isn't to say that we won't get Boba Fett, Mandalorian, and the adorable Baby Yoda in some form at Walt Disney World, as it's highly likely that these will be character meet and greets that will be brought to Star Wars launch bay at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And in terms of finally being able to meet Mando and Grogu, I've heard from trusted sources that Disney has developed an advanced audio animatronic Grogu figure that will far surpass what we saw years ago with the Baby Groot animatronic. However, what's not clear yet is how this Grogu is going to be implemented, as the advanced animatronic is housed within the oval-shaped cradle, which would be best suited to a fixed position within a meet and greet location. Whereas there's also a possibility of having a smaller, more mobile, semi-puppeted unit that Mando can then carry around on walkabouts. And speaking of animatronics, Disney Research has been developing Project Kiwi, which is a completely self-balancing, independently walking, bipedal robot that brings characters to life at their true scale. And although the test unit that we see in the video is one of Groot, I can't help but think when I see this that this would be ideal at some point in the future for us to be able to meet Master Yoda within the parks, as the height and shape of the unit is much closer to the build of Yoda than that of Groot. But that's just my own personal speculation for the time being.
But make no mistake about it, as this gradual fading out of the fixed timeline for the characters will likely trickle its way down into the attractions at some point in the future as well.
And so, there's no reason why these story parameters outlined for the characters can't also eventually be applied to the rides as well. As every theme park attraction transports guests to some specific story and timeline that then contains the characters and events. Therefore, when it comes to changes to the existing rides or building new rides in Galaxy's Edge, it will likely have individual timelines straying away from the sequel trilogy, which poses some very exciting possibilities. As before Imagineering realised the difficulties of programming the complex interactive gameplay of Smuggler's Run, it was originally meant to have 3 randomised missions, with with the first one being the one that we currently experience, which is trying to steal the coaxium from a train, much like the train heist scene from Solo. Then the second mission would have involved a race on the planet of Corellia, which was the planet shown at the beginning of that movie, and then the third mission would have been escaping the Maw creature shown in Solo, which we even received concept art for in late 2017. So pretty late in the process, Disney was intending on loosely basing the attraction on the events of Solo, which canonically takes place 45 years before the timeline of Galaxy's Edge. But the movie dramatically underperformed at the box office, and Disney decided not to lean into the Solo crossover elements for the marketing as much. But now Disney has incredibly popular Star Wars shows on Disney Plus to capitalize on. Which brings me back to a rumour that I reported on in January of 2020, as at the time I stated that Disney was planning to move away from the fixed timeline in favour of potentially integrating the Mandalorian, and it was the Millennium Falcon attraction that was rumoured to get references to Mando and Grogu, as an effort by management to improve the guest satisfaction and ride experience, as after all the Falcon is a reliable people eater for the land with an operational capacity of 1,800 guests per hour. But then this supposed plan was shelved because of a pandemic. However, now with Boba Fett and Mando coming to Galaxy's Edge, it seems possible that this proposal might just be brought back. Although before we see any change to the Millennium Falcon to include a bounty hunter mission, I would expect that the Mandalorian, Boba Fett and maybe even the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will be integrated in some way within Star Tours first, as it was announced that new destinations would be added to Star Tours very soon. Therefore, it would be much easier to craft a story in Star Tours featuring the Razor Crest or N1 starfighter with an incoming transmission from the Mandalorian and the adorable Grogu than that of developing a new interactive Falcon mission that would need to change the pre-show with Hondo to accommodate new content. But with the timeline change and the popularity of this new content, there is now a new hope that Galaxy's Edge will eventually get a new attraction in the next 5 or 6 years or so. But the thing is, over in Disneyland there is only one space that has been designated as an easily accessible expansion pad, and it's this 70,000 square foot location here, which could accommodate an attraction just slightly smaller than Smuggler's Run. Whereas over in Disney World there are a few expandable spaces, with this location being the main designated expansion pad in the middle of the land of roughly the same size as over in Disneyland. And then there's another space just behind Ogre's Cantina, which was meant to be for the unbuilt table service restaurant called the Kalikori Club, and there's even a small unutilized space to the side of a First Order area, which is where there's another entrance over in Disneyland, but in Walt Disney World it's unused. But the thing about all of these expansion pads is, on top of it requiring a disruption to backstage infrastructure, they are most importantly a rare piece of highly valuable land that can only be used once, which might mean that Disney waits longer to gauge which new story has the most engagement and longevity before using them, as originally there were concepts for a bounty hunter attraction within Galaxy's Edge that would have supposedly been a speeder bike roller coaster type of experience. However, in summary, these latest changes are a step in the right direction and gives us renewed hope for a very exciting future full of bright suns for Galaxy's Edge.
But now, it's over to you, Waltineers. I would like to know, what are your thoughts and opinions about these changes to Galaxy's Edge? And if you could also change anything about Galaxy's Edge in the future, then what would it be and why? And if you've enjoyed today's video, then be sure to give this video a massive thumbs up, as it really does help this channel out. Share this video with a friend who also likes Star Wars. And with all of that being said, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.